Thank you.
All right, next we'll move on to an ordinance permit to authorize cannabis dispensary at 733 South Salisbury Boulevard, welcoming city planner Amanda Rodriguez and a few guests. So when you all get situated, if you can just explain, give us your name and your relation to this project.
So my name is Kathy Roth. I'm the CEO of Elevated Mind and Wellness.
Edward Shire, I'm an attorney at McAllister, Darsha, Walter, and Walker. I'm the counsel for Elevated Minded Wellness, and Kathy Rowell.
And my name's Carl Wilson. I'm with the traffic group. We're the traffic consultant for the project.
Thank you. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you. This is for an ordinance permit. They're a little far and few between, so I just want to give you guys a recap of how we get here. So they apply for an ordinance permit. If it's allowed by an ordinance permit in code, it goes to Planning Commission for a recommendation. And then it comes here to you all for a work session and then public hearing afterwards. So this is for a cannabis dispensary to be located at 733 South Salisbury Boulevard, which is in the general commercial district. And a dispensary is an allowable use in the general commercial district with an ordinance permit. So just a brief summary of their review during Planning Commission. They did forward you guys a favorable recommendation. Based on their review, the site had plenty of parking. We talked a little bit about the traffic impact, which he can answer any questions for you about that. But the surrounding uses are pretty consistent with the use. You have Walgreens and community pharmacy on either side. And then also included in your packet, you have a breakdown of their financial and operations plan. They've been very thorough, very straightforward with the department. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer them for you.
Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of, this is the second time since I'm on the Planning Commission, so thank you all for coming again. And if you all can just give a brief overview of your, your business, what you plan to bring to Salisbury, how you're going to be different than the other location in Salisbury, and then we'll touch on that piece as well with the traffic. So thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council President, and Council members. So I have provided you guys with a lot of proprietary information, right? Because I wanted to be fully transparent about our business vision, which is to be a cannabis retail store that services the city, contributes to the community, hires from local workforce, invests in city and county programs, and successfully develops a family of local personnel with growth and career opportunities. I understand this is something new with varying opinions. And with this great business opportunity comes great responsibility to the community, city, county, and the state. The issuance of the ordinance permit for this location, which meets all of the criteria outlined in City Ordinance 2840, will allow Elevated to bring our vision and our mission to the community. I think we all can agree the city has experienced some pain points from the existing dispensary, like parking, traffic flow, on-site consumption concerns, etc. So when we were considering how we wanted our operations and our customer experience to be, we acknowledged these pain points to ensure our business at this location would not encounter this. This location has more than adequate parking to handle the inflow of customers, almost double the existing dispensary. We performed a qualified traffic study to ensure the best practice for traffic flow was considered. We plan to hire adequate exterior security to ensure on-site consumption is prohibited, and we will be utilizing kiosks so that our patrons have a much more tranquil and efficient retail experience. In addition to bringing a retail and medical service to the community, we hope to positively impact the surrounding community as outlined in our community enrichment program. In fact, it's our intention to pledge a percentage of our sales to support various organizations to promote community health and well-being. The cannabis industry is heavily regulated and requires strict compliance, both attributes my 30-plus years of corporate experience were focused on. I am also a resident of Wicomico County and want to ensure that Elevated is a good steward to the community and its surrounding stakeholders. In closing, again, would like to thank Amanda for all of her help in guiding us through this process. And thank you for the consideration, and we are here to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you. I guess we'll pivot to you.
Sure. With regard to traffic, we prepared the traffic impact study for the site, and in doing that, we looked at intersections along South Salisbury Boulevard to the north at Roland Street, where it intersects at the right in, right out. And then to the south, where Roland Street intersects opposite North Avenue at the signalized intersection. And then, of course, we looked at the existing site access points to the site, both to South Salisbury Boulevard and to Roland Street to the east. We took turning movement counts on a weekday PM peak from 4 to 7 p.m. and then also on a Saturday in May of 2024. The business is not expected to be open during the AM peak, so that's why we didn't take a look at that time period. With doing the counts, we found some heavy traffic flow along South Salisbury Boulevard, which is not unexpected, but everything is operating at an acceptable level of service under existing conditions using highway capacity manual. In the future, to determine the trips that the site is going to generate, we actually went above and beyond what we would normally do for a traffic impact study. Typically, we would just look in the Institute of Transportation Engineers. That's the manual that we typically use that establishes a rate per square foot of a typical business to come up with a future trip projection. In addition to that, we also studied the Apothecarium. We looked at those peak hours, and then we also had 2 other data points for sites that we prepared in Frederick County, Maryland. So we looked at both ITE, the existing Apothecarium, and then these 2 other sites to determine, what was the most conservative way that we could look at this. And what we found was ITE is actually the most conservative out of all of those uses. So we use those trip rates to determine the future trips for the site. And basically, during the PM peak, it's going to be about 40 trips in, 40 trips out. And on Saturday, it's about 63 in, 64 out. It's about 1 per minute on Saturday coming into the site. We subtracted out the existing trips that we counted on site, because there are some trips that are using it today. And the main recommendation that we have for traffic flow on site is for the site circulation to go from South Salisbury Boulevard being all the access coming into the site, circulating to the east over to Roland Street. And the one-way flow is beneficial for a couple reasons. First of all, there's a 2-way left turn lane on South Salisbury Boulevard. That's going to allow traffic to, that means that people can use that center lane to turn into the site.
Yes.
So that's not going to restrict any of that existing southbound traffic flow. For exiting the site, obviously, coming out at an unsignalized intersection is more concerning. Exiting that site onto South Salisbury is going to be more concerning than coming out on Roland Street, where they're able to circulate around to the south to the traffic signal. Also, from a pedestrian standpoint, we believe that we did count pedestrians as well, and there are pedestrians on South Salisbury Boulevard. And from a sight distance standpoint, we believe it's better for pedestrians to exit on Roland Street because of the sight distance. If I'm coming out of that site, I'm only going to be looking to my left if I'm turning right out. I might miss a pedestrian. So once we redistributed the traffic flow with the increased trips, everything worked acceptably, and we think there's no additional improvements needed for the site.
Sorry. Council, any questions? Like I said, this is my second time, and I asked a lot of questions of you all last time in preparation of this. And I know that the one thing that I, again, prefaced what you all have done was the traffic. That is the main concern with the other location in Salisbury is traffic. Again, the cars are standing still on Mount Hermon Road, the ways in and out. I think you all have done a pretty decent job of addressing that concern with having just the one-way entrance coming in from 13 and then exiting from Roland Road. And I'm looking at it here on Google Maps view, and I've looked at it each time I've passed by. But also, which I didn't even think of, is that when we now having 2 businesses in Salisbury, it should split up the consumers or customers going from one location to the other who are near or will be near your location. So I think that's going to help both locations out as well. Council?
The only question, are you going to be doing any kind of delivery service? I didn't see anything in here, but are you guys going to be doing any kind of delivery service to mitigate traffic to the site, or?
Currently, it's something we're looking into.
Okay.
As a dispensary license holder, right, I would have to partner probably with a microprocessor.
Gotcha.
Micro dispensary for having those deliveries done.
Gotcha.
They're kind of evolving. The MCA just did do some changes to their code in
Yeah.
June.
I know, that's why I was curious about it,
And
because I wasn't
so
sure what the status was.
Those types of things are evolving, but currently, we are not planning on that.
Okay, good to know.
I was going to say, so the site is, I think I recollect, it's right in and right out currently, right?
No, today it's actually full movement. So
It is.
you'd be able to come in or go out onto South Salisbury today.
But you're looking to change that?
That's absolutely correct. You know, because
Okay.
one of the other concerns that I didn't mention was that the southbound traffic flow for the traffic signal at South Salisbury can sometimes extend up to this driveway. It's about 250
Yeah, okay.
feet. And that's always a concern with traffic coming out, is coming into that queued traffic. You know, so by having this being inbound only, it sort of takes away that concern.
It's typical that you don't down zone your entrance, you try to get it up zone. All right, so the second is, so you're saying that people, you would like to encourage people to go to Roland Street and then go out to the signal access, right?
To go to the south, if they wanted to go to the north, we
doesn't
don't have
make
a
a difference.
concern with them using Roland Street to ultimately intersect
Okay.
at South Salisbury up
Okay.
to the north.
And going back to this on-site usage, is that a problem?
It's prohibited.
Well, Details. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I'm kidding.
Trick question.
I've heard other people within the community have concerns with Mount Herman dispensary with
Okay.
potential on-site usage happening in the parking lot, the odor. So it's something that we've kind of latched on ourselves
Sure.
and, you know, determined, look, hey, we're willing to put in some extra security out externally to make sure that it's not something that we will tolerate. And
Okay.
we will, you know, everything is 24-hour surveilled at the location, and I have no problem contacting the police and letting them know that people are not doing the things that they're doing something illegal.
The only comment I was going to make, just the mechanism in which this is permitted is an ordinance permit. So if there becomes a problem, you can always
Yep.
undo that permit process, which we're not starting off on a bad foot.
No.
We really like everything that's going on here, but that is the reason we structured the legislation in this capacity, is so that we only have good actors moving forward in this field.
Yeah, the traffic is the big thing. Looking at how much parking you have, I do know that parking has been an issue with another dispensary in the area. It's been a huge problem. The flow of traffic in, the flow of traffic out, the amount of foot traffic, it's blocked. School buses up, it's blocked. Everybody up certain hours of the day. And I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to visualize the flow of this for like the practical.
Can you, I think one thing that also helped me out as well, again, I was asking a lot of questions, and that's why I'm not asking, but I'm trying to remember the questions I asked last time. Speak about your process, your way, okay, your way is different than that way, which will kind of change up.
So we kind of looked at what was happening at the current dispensary that we have, and we are taking the kiosk approach. And the reason why I put that in my opening statement was because it's completely different than what is occurring at the current dispensary. So when their customers go in, they're having to park for much longer. From the time that they park to where they actually complete their retail sale and leave is anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. With the kiosk, right, process flow, they're literally, they're in, they're out between 8 to 11 minutes. And we've kind of done our own sort of, I guess, retail kind of study on this by looking at various ones in other counties and monitoring, you know, going in, seeing how long it's actually taking us to go through the process and doing that type of homework. And it's worth putting the extra capital, right? Because it's expensive to put the kiosk in. It's a whole different point of sale system, but it just will help alleviate any of taking so long for people to come in and out. and it actually makes the experience much more enjoyable for the actual customer.
Just a couple follow-up things. I know we've done our homework, but just so they're out on the record. Roland Street, is there parallel parking allowed on that street? Do you recall?
The road's about 36 feet wide. I don't recall seeing any signs that restrict parking.
Okay. And then communications with the adjacent property owners who do have ample parking for their customers, but, overflow concerns. Have we addressed those or have had discussions with the neighbors?
We have not. We do know that the place really adjacent to this location, there's not much space in between them, is also a holistic
Oh, yeah.
hemp kind of facility. And then we do have, right, I guess it's the Walgreens. Isn't it?
It's pharmacy to the
Yes,
south,
the pharmaceutical on the other side of us as well, with their parking actually in between their drive-through and our building. We have not spoken with them or really something we would be definitely willing to do.
Last thing, follow-up. So I understand, so currently it's a left in, right out, but you're voluntarily going to a right in, right out. Is that what you're saying?
On South Salisbury?
On South Salisbury.
No, today it's a full movement.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, so we're proposing a left in, right in.
Okay.
In the future, so inbound movements only. So it's basically going to
Okay.
be a one-way
Then go back
circulation.
through, I got it, okay.
Yep.
So no out on the 13th.
That's correct.
I got it, okay, that's what I was
And-
kind of confused by that, okay.
Yeah, and just to clarify, to the south, the Walgreens has a right in, right out. So that's a channel
Yeah.
that's right in, right out for
Yeah.
them, so they can't come left out. And for the counts that we did here, a lot of the traffic was turning right out anyway, under the existing conditions coming out of our site, because again, it's a more challenging movement, obviously, to make that left turn out. So we're trying to look at the best way to optimize flow and obviously keep everything as safe as possible. To your comment about, sometimes, we try to increase access. Ultimately, we're just trying to make this operation work as smoothly and as efficiently as possible here in this case. That's what's sort of driving the recommendations here.
And your reasoning was because of peak hours, you're going to be very busy and people are going to be coming in, so to get them out on the, I get it, okay.
Yeah, but again, during the peak hours, about 1 car per minute entering is what we're expecting. And with the way the parking lot is laid out, they'll be able to park. There's a lot of parking on site to
Yeah.
accommodate, particularly with the timeframe for the distribution, allow that parking to turn over with ample parking.
I think it would cause congestion trying to have folks coming in and going out of those two entrances, and that's something we talked about at Planning Commission. I think it would be too much, but so having just one way coming in and then having the folks go out the back entrance, I think is a lot better. Again, you all did a good job of coming to us with that.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
So is a kiosk, is that one kiosk, multiple kiosks? How much does one kiosk serve?
So one kiosk will serve one customer, but we will have multiple. We're planning on having at least 12 to 14 kiosks within
wow.
our actual dispensary area.
Seeing no other questions or comments, I see no public comments in-house. Any online?
Nothing.
No? Okay. Council, do we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move to a fair housing update from our Housing Community Development Director, Mr. Mirboda.
Is it working?
Good afternoon, council. So wanted to, this is a fair housing update. This is basically taking the 115-page analysis on impediments to fair housing and trying to bring it down into looking at what the top issues are that have been identified, and then talk about, and more, this is something for you all to chew on, to think about. This isn't, this isn't we're going to go all of a sudden and do all these things, but I think, one sentence in here on some things can often be a much deeper dive into, if we do something, we really have to take a look at impacts, not just immediate, but what happens 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So this is, so that's kind of what this is about. Let's see. So HUD defines fair housing choice as the ability of persons, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or handicap, of similar income levels to have the same housing choices available to them. So really, we're looking about, this isn't about low-income housing, this isn't about affordable housing, this is about everybody at every income level being able to find housing within their means. And in general, no one should be spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And that's regardless of your income level. I mean, unless you got hundreds of billions of dollars and, build, buy whatever you want. But for those of us in the real world, it's making sure that, we have to live within our means. And when housing costs get out of control, that's where everybody at every level struggles. So they've identified 7 areas that have been identified in Salisbury that's an impediment to fair housing choice. So first, there's a lack of affordable housing for all income levels in Salisbury. There is a lack of new construction to meet the housing demand, especially owner-occupied housing units. There are areas of minority housing concentration that correspond to areas of lower income concentration. There are substantially more renter-occupied units than owner-occupied units in Salisbury. Household incomes have increased at slower rates than housing costs. There is a lack of zoning provisions that encourage fair housing choices, and then communication issues exist for persons with limited English proficiency. So another thing is taking a look at some of the data that I was in there, as if we look back at the history of our city. And historical housing that's been built in 1939 is kind of, 39 to, or 40 to 49 is when they started monitoring it by decade. But prior to 1939, the houses that exist today, 1,743 of them were built before 1939. And as you go through the decades, you got one decade, 1960 to 69, where less than 1,000 houses were built during that decade. And we moved along the next 40 years until we got to 2010. And so we know that in 2010, as a nation, we were in the middle of the housing crisis. And in addition, in 2013, why you will see a split there, Salisbury passed the ordinance for requiring fire suppression systems in all single-family homes that are built. At the time, and I remember sitting in the rooms when that was being discussed, was people representing the financial industry were saying this is going to impact people being able to have a home built, because most of the time with construction, the loans are at the maximum of what somebody can afford. This put them over that. And then what happened in 2014? 2014 was the first time in our city's history that we did not have one permit pulled to build a house in the city. It wasn't built. And between 2014 and 2017, you see 91, and that 91 is in response to when we as a city came up with some EDU incentives to help offset the cost, and that spurred some houses to be built. And then the next one shows permits, or no, types of housing units, I'm sorry. So about 41% of the properties in our city are one unit detached. And then the 10% of one unit attached is not a duplex, it's homes that are built side by side, basically sharing a wall, but not a duplex. So that kind of breaks down the types of housing units we have. The other, somebody was counting an RV, which is, we don't count RVs as dwelling units in the city, though people try. The housing permits, since 2017, we've seen some steady increase in permits being pulled. And so over the past 4 or 5 years, we've seen an increase in buildings of all kind. But the issue that we are in is that we did not have enough housing built last decade, so we are in catch-up mode. I mean, we should have had, if you looked at the prior decade, more housing built, and so we're behind. And our population has always grown, and we have a large influx of immigration to our city, which again is putting an additional pressure. There's not enough housing. So when we're looking at things that we need to think about, and as we say, there's a lack of affordable housing for all income levels. We need to have every kind of housing built, whether it's single-family homes, whether it's apartments. We need everything. Some of these things that we can do as far as zoning code are some things that need to be discussed. And again, increasing density, looking at the 4-2, 3-2 law, and allowing ADUs and SOR, which are accessory dwelling units or single-room occupancies, to be built. But again, these are deeper discussions, and it's not like you can go and snap your fingers and do it. I will say on the 4-2, 3-2 issue, we're looking at data. I'm working with GIS on some things to look at how would that impact the neighborhoods if we did that. Because it's not just opening up and allowing more people to stay in a house. Oftentimes, in many of these situations, when you do, you got to look at the parking. You got to look at how many bathrooms are in the house. How big are the bedrooms? So if a bedroom is 70 square feet, it's one person. If it's 120 square feet, that's 2 people. One bathroom will support 4 people, and that is international housing code. So those are things to chew on, think about. What are the things we would like to do? It's a lack of new construction, so I mean, different things and especially owner-occupied housing units. So looking at removing barriers for new construction, upzoning for higher density, consider mixed-use development, promote development loan and mortgage assistance, and permit small-scale development for infill projects. So some things that can happen for stuff like that is some cities have plans that are pre-approved for sites. And so if someone wants to build a home, whether it's a small developer, if they just came in and said, hey, I want this plan, then with that, have everything ready to go. Kind of like what Dave was talking about, having some stuff that's ready to go where they don't have to spend months and money paying for plans and approval for site development. It's something that could speed up the process for building a single-family home, almost like a turnkey situation. Next, there are areas of minority housing concentration that correspond to areas of lower income concentration. Again, workforce development is a key, and we have some good partners with that. And promoting resources to these communities, support revitalization grants and loan programs, whether that is, the state has quite a few programs for homeowners who cannot afford to repair their homes. One of the missing things, and again, this kind of gets into, landlords who have some of this older housing stock, some may or may not be able to afford to upgrade the homes, whether there's programs that need to be developed or encouraged by the state to offer similar programs to landlords. We promote 2 property rehabilitation programs through our CDBG program. So this year, if you recall, Habitat for Humanity's rehabilitation program and SNHS, Salisbury Neighborhood Housing, their program are both this year, the money is geared towards people who own their homes and need repairs, and it's going to help, 25 to 30 people. And that's a start. And so that's something we want to try to continue for the next few years, using that money in that direction. And then, the other piece is promoting home ownership programs. And again, SNHS and Habitat are both excellent partners at that. But again, it's the availability of the housing for people to own their homes. One of the things, recognizing this is often thrown at us as a city, that there are substantially more renter-occupied units than owner-occupied units. So we are a college town. So we have Salisbury University, UMES, and Warwick Community College. So that's 3 higher education institutions in our city. And so naturally, with college students, there's a higher demand for housing. There's been rumors that SU is working to require juniors to live on campus. I've heard it a couple of times, but we're going to circle back to that. I don't know. Currently, I think sophomores still do, but the idea was for juniors to be on campus. But I'm going to circle back to make sure that that's accurate. I've heard it twice, one time from somebody from Salisbury University, so I just want to verify that. And again, promote SNHS and Habitat for Humanity, their home ownership programs. The other, again, another issue that is, like we had said, household incomes have increased at slower rates than housing costs. And we have certainly seen that over the past few years post-COVID, as construction costs have gone up, and then, which slowed some construction, which then, again, when there's not enough housing, that creates an increase in price because of demand. Because we always think there's always people ready to move out from mom and dad and move on their own, but there's not always enough places and types of places that they want to live. So one thing that we can look at is promoting educational opportunities through job training, skills development program, which we do. As Dave talked earlier about the mechanics program with UMES and those partnerships, and other in the job force or workforce development over at the Tri-County Council building. They got some good opportunities there that we try to partner people with that we come in contact. Next is there's a lack of zoning provisions that encourage fair housing choices. Again, looking at zoning code changes and modernizing things, and I know that there's been talk of this over the past few years, but it's something that a lot of communities around the country are taking a look at their zoning. A lot of this stuff was built, was written back in the 50s, 70s, and has been amended, and we make all these special exceptions for things that we waste, not, legal expenses are not a waste, but, every time we write an ordinance, we send it to legal, that there's a cost to that.
Right.
When we could just go through and say, if we keep approving this, why not just change the law? So there are some things like that to look at as far as zoning, and with restrictions on a variety of things. And then, the last, one point here is develop a plan for developers who include affordable housing in their projects. That is one thing a lot of communities are struggling with. There's not real, a lot of times they're just dependent upon state money for things. And that's, why we see a lack of development in some cases where, as a community, let's take a look at this. What is it that we can do to encourage or require developments to include a certain percentage of the units to be, what we would categorize as affordable housing, and that, or attainable housing, I guess maybe is another term. that we could, is there some things that we could do? I mean, Queen Anne's County currently requires it.
Yes,
But
they do.
Queen Anne's County does not have any capacity in their sewer system to build any more housing. So, that's kind of, Easton's looking at some things. Now, Easton has about 75% capacity in their sewer system, so they need to build housing because it's going to be easier for much more affordable for their users of their sewer system if there's more people using the system. So there are some things to look at. Again, we're not on an island. This is every community around the country is going through this. And last, communication issues exist for persons with limited English proficiency. So one of the things that as we're going through some things in my department, we will be working to put some of our documents and communication in Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. Those seem to be the three most common languages now that people struggle with. And then also when we have city positions open to promote these positions to those communities and in their languages. But I know we translated a couple of documents a few months ago, and I mean it cost about $400 to do it in two languages. So when we try to do a little bit at a time. We're not going to go in and do everything at once because we have budgets and restraints on expenses and stuff. But so that's kind of the top there. One of the things that we've been working on is our fair housing guide as a part of this, so we're going to have a renter's guide, a landlord's guide, and a homeowner's guide, and some of the things that where it talked about resources for homeowners. Where do we get the loans? Well, it's going to be in this guide. Same thing for renters, encouraging them for home ownership. Landlord's guide, the various processes to be a landlord, and all of them have stuff about when they get the letters from my department, how to respond, how to react. With renters, it's hey, as soon as you get this, please let your landlord know. Because that happens about 50% of the time. The only letter from us that we get that they respond to immediately to their landlord is if it's a vacate order. That one, they will call their landlord right away. But other than that, when it's something about the grass or something about rubbish or refrigerators sitting in the front yard, a lot of times they do not communicate that to their landlord. So landlords, again, there's information in there for them. Homeowners, upgrade resources and some things like that. So that we're about 90% of the way done with it, and then we'll be going for approval and then disseminating that. So, any questions?
No direct question. I'm trying to make sure I keep it on this. Again, you talk about housing. It's so widespread and so it can involve a lot. So, but one thing I can say, appreciate you for doing this, and I think this gives you not trying to speak for you or your department, but this gives you a good guideline or a good guidepost to formulate your vision and your for what Salisbury's needs are. Again, directly from a accredited individual who did this, but this also gives you a guide as to what you should be focusing your efforts on. So I look forward to, I guess, your next step. Okay, how do we, these are, your the seven impediments. Mm-hmm. So what are our next steps beyond this? I look forward to hearing those things. And, I'm a resource. If you want to use me, please do. I will let it be part of the conversation, but, and I know the community wants to be as well. So these 7 things, I think these are spot on, and we've discussed it at our Housing Action Committee. So I would appreciate if you could share this at our next committee. Would be great. But we've talked about these very things at our committee. So these are things that people are seeing are the impediments, but also an expert is seeing this as well. So I think it's time for us to get in shape with it as well. So, Council, any other questions?
I was just going to say, as a parent who has one that's walked out the door and one with one foot out the door, you talking about having young people who want to move out on their own but can't because there's just no supply out there. That hits home for me because there is nothing for them to move into other than the Ross, and my daughter's already laid claim to that. She's marked that as her territory. Her brother's not allowed to move in there, apparently. So, that's pretty near and dear to me with young folks, especially with the retaining these young, talented people who are going to the college town and keeping them in the community and not having housing to put them in after they graduate. Like, how do we keep people here? And this is, I really like this plan. It's very, it's almost sounds simple, but it's not, and it's going to be very complicated to try and put into place. But just starting by identifying all the issues, and there are many, it's a good start.
You said that these guides are almost 90% complete, all three of them? Or
Yeah,
just-
it's all being done together.
And one,
Yeah.
okay, all right. And so when do you anticipate them being completed?
Like I said, we're working on the final touches, because some of it's, we got to get some QR code addresses, because we're going to do, so the guides themselves, the full guides will be online. We will have some brochures, and then we will have some, for like neighborhood walks, we'll have some postcards with the QR codes on there so just to make it, so all the designing is done, it's just a few minor things that we're tightening up this week, so that's what one of our interns is working on. And then once everything's done, it'll go to the mayor's office for their review and approval, and then once everything is done, then that all goes, we'll post it. We're going to work with communications to put it out there, and then it all goes into the CAPER, which Joanne works on, which is reporting everything that we're doing, which goes into the CDBG plan. So this was actually that was actually a part of the CDBG plan 5 years ago, and it was never done. So we're making sure it gets done this time.
Thank you.
All Siggers.
Good evening again, Vaughn Seegers, City of Salisbury. It's a rather comprehensive report. It's really thorough, and it perhaps answered the questions that I had, so I don't have much at this point. I did want to differentiate between to differentiate between fair housing and affordable housing. I think you may have done that, but one of the concerns I have is that what you might consider fair housing, or what a developer might consider fair housing, may not be necessarily fair housing to those persons who are hoping to reside there. So, which is why I would have wanted you to distinguish between fair housing and affordable housing. And I'm wondering if, as you indicated, if with the potential of housing coming to the community, if you can sort of marry that, the wages, with the housing that's coming to ensure that people will be able to afford it, that it doesn't become a hardship before it even gets established. You did mention the fundings, potential fundings that are available for persons who may need to make home repairs and what have you. Is there a particular type of housing that is more favorable for you than another, such as apartments, condos, single-family homes, that kind of thing that you're hoping to promote in the city?
For the repairs?
I want to make sure
No,
that Ms.
for-
Siggers gets her full time.
Okay.
I want to make sure we're not having the back
Right,
and forth. So
right.
Thank you.
No dialogue. Okay. Is there one that you're promoting more? Because it just appears to be more apartments, what have you, developing in the city than single-family housing. I just wondered if that was something that was deliberate, that you intended to hopefully bring about. That's mainly what I would just encourage the council to please be cognizant of the prices that are set for housing when you're looking at the employment versus the housing. that people are able to be employed with a living wage and afford to live. Because please bear in mind that these people do have families, so that they would have some time available to invest in their families and not have to spend all of their times with a job and another part-time job and supplemental jobs to try to make ends meet, so that we're bringing jobs into the community that people will be able to live with and raise a family with.
Thank you, Ms. Sickers. And I think, Mr. Boda, just to help you out, I want to make sure we go back to the fair house, which we're off of it now, but the fair housing choice, it did give the definition of fair housing, the ability of persons regardless of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or handicap of similar income levels to have the same housing choices available to them. So that's the overarching. Affordable housing is one component of this fair housing, so it's not just the only component. And then also that chart, which we can see, I think it's part of the, is it part of the packet? Yes. Yes, it is part. So page 3, I believe, is a chart where it says, so 1 unit detached in the city of Salisbury is actually 41%, which 20, do you consider multifamily, so like apartment complexes, that's the 20 or more units, or is that?
Well, yeah.
Typical.
You got 5 to 9 units and then
Yeah, so that's
10 to 19, so it's, the
10 to
bigger
20.
ones, like a Mill Pond Village would be in your 20 or more units.
20 or more, yeah. So we have a substantial larger portion of our houses here in Salisbury, 41% are single-family homes versus the multi. I know that's the buzz you've been hearing a lot, so sometimes, but the data shows that that's less than 10% of the units that we have, or, you know, is our multifamily homes. Between, so if it's 10 to 19 units, which is a very small, small apartment building, that's 19.7%, and 20 or more units is 8.9. So it'd take a lot of units on the to skew it one way or the other.
Yeah, and I would add that Parsons Lake, which is, I believe, is now under construction, you're looking at probably at least 300, 350 homes being built out there. I mean, that's, and I don't know where the old mall is, but there's another one on off Beagland Park Drive that I believe is going to have at least 40, 50 homes.
Exactly. They don't get the buzz that the other ones.
Yeah.
We have single-family homes coming on the
They're
market,
coming, but
just not as fast as
yeah,
it. So.
yeah, you know, and all this stuff has been in the planning process for years. But yeah, there's often, you know, with affordable housing, and it's, you know, some of those attainable housing, those terms are generally interchangeable, but, you know, they get confused sometimes with low-income housing, which is not, they're different things. But the idea is that everybody at every level has the same choices available to them as everybody else. That's the ultimate goal.
Exactly. Ms. Bratton?
Good evening, everybody. After the last meeting, everybody wanted to know, was I sick? Because I didn't say anything. So I'm not sick, and I am here today. I just didn't have anything to say the last meeting. Lynn Bratton, City of Salisbury, South Boulevard, been here forever. Landlord, retired school teacher, entrenched in the good things that happen in Salisbury as both a landowner, taxpayer, and human being, and a mom and a grandmom, and want the good things to happen. So my comment number 1, I've got about 4 things, I think, if I can remember them. The chart with 7 things on it, you said they said, and I wanted to know who the they were. I missed that somewhere in the conversation. I'm curious as to who the they are, because as a school teacher, you always want to know who they are, because that kind of drives a lot of people's opinions on things. Number 2, I think about 8 years ago, I stood right here, maybe less, maybe more, and said the 4-2 law absolutely created a housing crisis. I said it right here, said it out loud, Muir can confirm it, I've said it right loud everywhere I've ever been, because it took a house that had 4 bedrooms and a bathroom and told you could only put 2 unrelated people in it, meaning they only shared the rent 2 ways, they had to share all the utilities 2 ways, they had to share the grass cutting costs 2 ways, when it could have held 4 if you had the parking for it. So, again, Muir and I have gone back and forth with different committees that we've been on before he became a paid employee of the City of Salisbury, and we've agreed that actually, from time to time, nobody thought about the cause and the effect and what the long-term outcome of that decision was going to be. They just wanted less parking in the neighborhoods close to college. And that was the knee-jerk reaction to it.
I was there, I lived through it. I have a house that went through the process of being grandfathered in. It had been a 4-person rental, actually has 6 bedrooms and 2 full baths, but I still can only put 4 people in it legally that aren't related. And that's been a situation that's been ongoing. So I do think we need to perhaps revisit that piece of it, but we have to be careful with parking, density, overcrowding the neighborhoods. The other thing is, as much as I'm all for us having places for everybody to live in the city of Salisbury, that's fine. Again, we have to think cause-effect, think long-term, think win-win for everybody. I think I keep saying that. Everybody needs to read that book that I keep referencing, that particular Covey set of books. Everything that we do to bring more people into our city creates an impact on our fire department, our police department, our school, our education programs, our teaching needs, our people that need to fund all of those infrastructure subdivision things, whatever they would be, the supports. So adding another 500 houses is fine, but then those people have to go to school, they have to ride the buses, they need to be able to call the EMTs if they need them, and we then have to support all of those things as well. So as we go through, I implore all the decision makers to please keep the total vision of cause and effect and long-term reactions in place. I know you're saying that you're going to be doing that, and I think that we have to remind ourselves to do it, not do the knee-jerk that we did with 4-2, because that's what that was. And then the last thing, I believe that I heard the last meeting that there was a housing task force or housing committee, and I'd really like to know who serves on that with you, Deshawn. I know we're not going to have answers back and forth, but I'd like to know who got tasked to be on that. I've been to every meeting. I'd like to be part of it. I'm a landlord. I think I have a voice. I think I have a pretty solid voice. And I think I have a voice of reason that I'd like to be able to share. And I also say the same thing with the Department of Housing and Community Development. I've often offered my services and those of other people that I know that would serve in any way to outreach to make sure that those documents that you're preparing have stakeholder input. I don't know whether you had any landlords that sat with you when you tried to write what you think landlords ought to know. Because I might say, a landlord needs to know this, because I've kind of been at it long enough and I know what some of them aren't doing and I know what they should be doing. So I feel like we need to look at the stakeholders and say, what do tenants need to know? Maybe talk to some tenants and ask them, what would you like to know more about? What would you like to know more about as a potential landlord? We have a lot of new landlords coming in, so we need to make sure that they know what they're doing, okay? Thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Bratton. And yes, we have about 25 or so members on that committee, and you have a lot of your friends are on there, but we'll send you an invite. But members of SAPOA, we have I think at least upwards of 10 landlords in the community from different sectors. We did the research on them. I'll share the list with you. I got you. But I hear you. So I was trying to get some people who I don't hear from as much. But Ms. Bratton, I'll send the invite. I don't know if you had the time to do it, but oh no, don't do that. But we made sure to get some individuals from every sector. And I think we've got a good group. And again, like I said, it's a good group, and we have community members, and yes, Ms. Siggers asked to be on there. I rotate community members. If I would invite. I'll be sure to share that with you, yes. Mr. Boda, do you want to answer the one question about where the 7 came from?
Okay, so
who are the they?
Yeah, the they.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember his name, but the consultant we had that we worked with the CDBG plan, he's the one that had been working on this using a lot of internal data from the city. They use the American Community Survey from the census data.
Yes.
So there's a lot of data that they put together, and then a lot of it's based on the economic trends and what they see as the average household income. So there's a lot of that they combine to come up with some of the issues that they've listed in here.
Absolutely. It's taking that 387-page document and boiling it down that the representative, part of that CDBG packet. So, perfect. So, thank you, Mr. Boda.
And then Ms. Bratton, she is on my list. Once we got the draft done of everything, she was one of the people that I was going to reach out to take a look at. I just hadn't called you yet. But you are on my list. Ms.
Now you say.
Play nice, play nice.
Yeah.
No, she's, I call her sometimes.
We'll bump Ms. Bratton up on the list, but thank you, Mr. Boda. We appreciate this. We appreciate even more the updates that we'll get from this as well, so thank you for sharing that with council. Great. We'll move forward to our administration comments. We'll start with you, Mayor Taylor.
Not many. I'm on my way, actually, I'm a little bit late and running for there's a rally down, not a rally, but a prayer visual down at the park after this weekend's event. So if anybody's interested, come down to the park. It's at the bandstand. I'm actually going to scoot out because I'm running a little bit late, but I appreciate it. And that's all I had for tonight. Cody?
Yeah, our new Director of Infrastructure and Development, today was day one for Nick. We will invite him to an upcoming meeting so you guys can meet him. John Toll is in the audience. He's excited to come back.
Yes.
To our office. But we will be doing an onboarding process with that. But again, it's been, we've been excited and waiting, and Nick's on a steep learning curve, but we're looking forward to him jumping in and helping us address a lot of our ongoing infrastructure and development concerns. And then, excited that we were able to move forward the ordinance permit tonight. I think that's a good step in the right direction for the city of Salisbury.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Kitzrow. Councilwoman DeShiel.
Again, thank you for including us with the fire department celebrating those 15 children that completed that week-long junior academy. Mr. Kitzrow, I'm still waiting for an update on Carroll Street and an update on the Horizon program and Here is Home. So if you'll put that on your calendar, please.
You got it. We almost made it onto this agenda, but it got pushed.
I know.
But it's coming.
Okay.
And that's a joint decision, so
Yes.
make sure, yes, that's a joint, so he has to make sure he speaks with the mayor to make sure that they're ready for that update, so.
Okay.
We got you. We have an accountability team over here.
Take all the time you want. I am not going away.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anything else?
No, not at all. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Gregory?
Going to keep it short and sweet. I'm excited to see a new dispensary coming. So congrats on that, guys. I just want to remind folks, tomorrow is good. The next few days are supposed to be super hot. So the Wycomico County Health Department is opening cooling centers. So one will be at the Civic Center from 1 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday and 3 to 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Just remember to bring your own food, beverages, and medications, and they do not allow pets. And for residents 55 and older, MAC will be doing cooling center Tuesday and Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So please, 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 if you are in need of staying cool, if your air conditioner is not working or is not keeping up, it's going to be a rough couple of days, so please, please, please take advantage of those, because we don't want to see anybody dealing with heat stroke or having to call for services from our fire department. So please make sure you guys stay cool the next couple of days.
Definitely.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council Vice President?
Thank you, thank you. A couple different things, and thank you for reminding us about the cooling centers. It's very important. Would like to have an update on, we did get it on the fire service agreement. It sounds like that's moving forward positively. That's wonderful. I would like to have an update on the Safe Streets. Is it the Safe Streets for All, that combination grant?
It is, which will also be part of Carroll Street. They kind of go hand in hand, because
okay.
Carroll Street was part of the Safe Streets for All massive thing. Yep, so you should have, that will be coming for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman DeShiel.
You say it twice, maybe I'll listen this time.
Yeah, well, okay.
You're
so-
outnumbered.
Yeah,
You are
you're
outnumbered.
And also Rails for Trails, and that's a separate pot of money, but I still would like to have an update on the Rails and Trails, where we are with that in the city, where, how far we come with the connecting of all of that. I did want to give an update on the Human Rights Committee. They met last week, and one of their newest things that they are focusing on is human trafficking and educating the community about it. They had a guest speaker, a young man from SU, to come in, and he did a great presentation. And I just want people to know that if you're aware of human trafficking or you know a victim of human trafficking, you can always reach out to Life Crisis. They address and help the victims, but also they are the key agency in reporting also. So keep that in mind. The bike and pedestrian are doing great things. They'll also, the Human Rights Committee, along with the bike and pedestrian, will be at Third Friday. They'll have like this combined table. I think some of the committees will have a combined table. So there was something else I wanted to say about the bike committee. It was something awesome, and
Did it slip?
it did.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. It did. But just a reminder to the public, I know we have had several people say, well, council's not here, they're not there, we don't do anything. This particular council, we're very busy. We have at least 4 or 5 committees, plus our social events, coming here to work sessions, executive sessions, and then other in-between meetings. So we're very, very busy, and we do try to be everywhere. I can't be cloned. That's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing.
I didn't say anything.
You said
You said it.
You said it.
You
You
wanted
said it,
to.
not us.
You wanted to say it, so I was just cutting it off at the pass. So anyway, and if you are healthy enough, please schedule yourself, donate blood, donate plasma, and consider being an organ donor. It's such a gift to give.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, council. I always appreciate when some of my things on my list are crossed off. That means our minds are in the right place. Again, the cooling centers, that is a big thing. I'm glad that we have that
Huge
coming
thing. Thank
in our community. So please take advantage of that. There are also, I posted on my council Facebook page about the free lunch program that is in effect this summer for youth. So it's free to sign up, no ID required. It's through MSDE. They are funding that. So again, free summer lunches and snacks for youth and their families. So please use that resource. It's statewide, not only for Salisbury, but that is a statewide program. Really good there.
And snacks?
Yeah, and snacks, yes, for youth, Councilwoman.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, Councilwoman
Snacks.
Gregory mentioned about the cooling centers. Also, I look forward to, again, council is, again, trying to make sure that we do everything what's great for the city. So we meet with administration tomorrow, talk about some things to go on some of those things that council just mentioned. We're going to talk about that in our session to get some things buttoned up. I look forward to getting some updates on Church Street Community Center, getting that signed, sealed, and delivered, and also the Lake Street Playground. I know there was some buzz about that earlier in the summer, so I know that there's some conversations going on at administration level. I want to get that, see what we can do about that, if not this year, but in the year to come, for that. So if you don't have an update,
I think we've identified 2 people, just need to button that up. We may have things up and running as early as next week, so we're just trying to settle that up. We just need to connect a couple more dots, but.
Good. Well, I will send some text. I have people who are texting and calling me, so I've been trying to keep them from knocking down headquarters. But that is a good program, and there's some programs going on at the Indian Village Playground as well, starting the first week in August. Dream Big Academy, Sean Tucker and the county are partnering on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the summer. So again, lots of free programs. I publicize them all on my Facebook page. And so again, we'll see if the city can share some of those things going on. Again, the county and the city are partnering, and as well as the county doing their part. So I appreciate all those efforts. Again, when we get beyond our names and titles, we do things for the community. That's the best thing there. So with that being said, we're going to end off at a good time here. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week.